Hi everyone! So I just wanted to explain about how messages in the dyslexic brain are transmitted and why there seems to be a problem. So this is based on research that has been done. There's extensive research been done, and looking at dyslexia has also been described as sort of like, you know, the proverb about the blind men around the elephant, and each one describing something different but not actually finding the whole. So research is ongoing, but what the common theory is now is based on this part of a neuron in your brain. So a dyslexic person generally has a bigger brain than a non-dyslexic person. And in a non-dyslexic person, these connections here, which I'm going to talk about in a second, are a lot closer together. In a dyslexic person who has a bigger brain, those connections are slightly larger. So this is a neuron, my very, very crude drawing of a neuron, which I hope you can see. And basically these parts here that are spreading out from the nucleus are bringing messages into the brain. So imagine that somebody has given you a spelling. That is being carried through the neuron and into your brain so that you can hear the spelling. This is called an axon. So these are dendrites, this is an axon. And the message then to spell that word comes out through this axon. It arrives here at this kind of synapse, this space. And if the connection between where it's going to and the axon is quite small, then the spelling is produced well. In a dyslexic person, these spaces are slightly larger. And because of that, the message can kind of like, if you imagine that it's dropped off a cliff, it just gets lost. And part of it might get through. Excuse me. So you might see that, you know, if for example, you're spelling the word care, you hear the k, air part. So a dyslexic person might not get the representation of that because of here. And so we'll put the C and the R, but forget about the vowel sounds, because vowel sounds are pretty much lost. And I could go on and on about this for hours, but vowel sounds for dyslexic people are pretty much lost in the harsher sounds of the consonants. And so when it comes to here, the visual representation of what C-A-R-E looks like, as well as what it sounds like, is basically lost in that space. Now, research has shown that with repetition, those spaces should be able to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Research has also shown that dyslexic people don't learn so well via repetition. What we do know is that if the brain is compressed, so most dyslexic astronauts, for example, go into space, come back, go into space as dyslexics, come back as non-dyslexics, because the brain is compressed and those spaces have got together. What a dyslexic person has to do is kind of train their brain to strengthen that gap. So it's always going to be there, and the connections could lessen over time, but they are always going to be there. And you've got to kind of, you know, train your brain through whichever means works. So repetition or reading and seeing those words. But that's basically what the research is showing.